Hey, hi Peter.
Hello.
This is Miriam. I'm here in Hong Kong. You can see me in the reflection back there. I'm in Hong Kong at the 4G 5G summit that Qualcomm just organized for the last few days. And Peter's here, Peter Lancia of Qualcomm. And we want to kind of do a recap, right, Peter? What happened, how it went, et cetera, et cetera. So tell me a little bit. First of all, the 4G 5G summit. It's changed the name, right? It used to be 4G summit.
It used to be 3G Summit.
That's right.
It used to be a CDMA Summit even prior to that.
Wow.
And this is the first year we actually changed the name to 4G 5G Summit. And I would say that this event we've been holding for several years now. I think it's been 10 years. And it's really been an ecosystem event where we bring together carriers and OEMs to talk about kind of what's next in technology, but also do sort of an introduction, introducing some OEMs to carriers and vice versa to actually do some matchmaking.
Right.
And so part of the event also includes that we have an expo where we have some of our partners show off some technology. And it's really a kind of a Qualcomm type of event that brings together the entire ecosystem.
And it's traditionally been in here in Hong Kong pretty much, right?
Yeah,
For a few years now.
Yeah, it's been in Hong Kong for several years. I think there was one or two other times that it was somewhere else.
So 5G is being added this year, correct? And so that's a big deal. There was a lot of talk of 5G. So perhaps you can walk us through some of the kind of key product announcements. Of course, the X50 modem is one of them. I know there's some new Snapdragon on the 400 and 600 series. If you can just touch on these briefly.
Sure. Yeah, so I think one of the key things, and traditionally this event has been connectivity focused, and I think one of the key themes was to talk about kind of improvements in terms of connectivity. So one of the key announcements that was made it relates to our Snapdragon X16 modem, in which we announced last February. And the X16 modem is a gigabit class modem. And so we announced this last February, and really this week we were announcing actually the first type of deployment. And it was a joint announcement between Qualcomm, Ericsson, Netgear, and Telstra, basically having a gigabit class commercial service that will be later this year in Telstra's network in Australia. And Telstra's always been kind of a front runner when it comes to working on technologies. And so we feel like this is a really big milestone, getting to a gigabit class LTE deployment. And that kind of brings to the topic of 5G.
Right.
And we are hearing a lot of things about 5G. And what we announced this week is actually Qualcomm's first 5G modem.
That's millimeter wave, right?
So 5G, there's a lot of talk about 5G, both from a kind of early deployments perspective and then the full standard, the NR standard that's actually being talked about. And so the X15 modem supports millimeter wave. And it's a big milestone because it highlights not only the commitment, but the progress that's being made to actually commercializing 5G. And on the path to 5G is what we're already experiencing today with gigabit class type services.
Cool. So there's some Snapdragons too. Do you want to talk about them really briefly?
Sure. I mean, one of Qualcomm's strategies all along has been to kind of develop at the premium tier and then trickle down features to the high and mid-tier products. And so we announced three different products this week, 2 Snapdragon 600 series products and 1 Snapdragon 400 series product. And instead of going into the specific details, some of the key features are supporting Cat 9 or X9, so Cat 7 types of data rates, 300 megabits per second on the downlink, as well as dual camera functionality across the multiple tiers.
Cool, yeah, they look pretty promising, and they're chip compatible with some of the older 600 and 400s, which I think is going to make it really awesome for OEM to update some of their phones within the next year.
Yeah, one of the things that we try and do is make it easy for our OEM partners that are already developing on Snapdragon to actually make it easier when a new Snapdragon comes out. So these chips are both software compatible as well as pin compatible with previous generations, thus allowing the OEM to actually leverage the existing designs to introduce new products to the market.
So it's kind of the end of the event. I'm going to pan down here. As you can see, we're on the 103rd floor of the ICC, which is the 10th tallest building in the world. And it's a typhoon out there, and it's been a typhoon for the last few days. And we're at the end now of this conference. What are kind of some of the key takeaways from your conversations with all the attendees so far? Like, what's the general vibe?
Well, the vibe, the event is over 2 days. And it consists of lots of different keynote presentations and then some demonstrations. And the event got kickstarted with Cristiano Amon, our VP of Qualcomm and the president of QCT, and he kickstarted with kind of going through some of the key announcements and his viewpoint of kind of where the mobile industry is going, and it was with a lot of fanfare and excitement as he introduced the X50 and some of the other technologies.
Yeah, I think people were pretty excited, and it's hard to get people excited on that level of technology usually. I mean, I'm a big nerd, so I'll get excited about almost anything, and I'm really, really looking forward to 5G starting. I mean, the gigabit LTE demo that we saw was really impressive. And so I don't know if you guys who are watching this right now saw, but I've been doing some Periscopes and some Twitters and some Facebook videos. So just check them out. One of the live videos I did yesterday was the the gigabit LTE demo. And the idea to me to have, a lot of people say gigabit and they look at the peak speed, but it's really what it means: sustain several hundred megabit performance. Like right now, I'm connected to Wi-Fi with this Moto Z that's using a Hasselblad mod, which is the true zoom camera, and I'm streaming over Wi-Fi because I couldn't really do it over LTE reliably right now, and thankfully the hotel Wi-Fi is pretty hot. But this is kind of what we're talking about. Enabling this technology going forward is really what the future is about, and what you guys are key players in.
Yeah, and I think one of the trends in video, both from a download and an upload perspective, and I think when you do live streaming it becomes really important. And that is one of the key trends in terms of driving the demand and the continued increase for demand for operators to actually go out and put new features in their networks to be able to support consumers that want to do more and more with video.
For sure. So what's next in terms of 5G, in terms of like what should we be looking for? I'm not talking about you announcing anything you should talk about, but like what should the people watching this video look out for in terms of 5G developments in the next months and years that are going to be really critical and exciting?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's always important to note that 4G continues, even though the industry is talking about 5G, and 5G will occur. It depends on who you're talking to in terms of a standpoint. So early 5G deployments could be in the 2018 timeframe, and the official 3GPP standard of 5G NR could be 2020 or could even be brought in earlier. But I think it's important to note that the continued evolution of LTE to help us get to that path of 5G. So I think what you'll see is continued evolution, new devices coming out, new networking improvements to make sure that we're continuing and not just waiting for 5G, because while 5G's happening and it's happening in a fast way, we're still developing and continue to improve on 4G.
Right, and don't forget, those of you watching, that the current chipsets that are out on phones, like I just reviewed the Pixel for Chip Chick, so go check that out, and that's got a Snapdragon 821, and of course an improvement in LTE performance with that modem and chipset. I mean, it's an integrated modem, but I think we're going to see more of that happening. There's still a bunch of intermediate steps that need to happen, and that people are going to benefit from, and directly the result of Qualcomm's expertise, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think as you see new devices, there's features in our modem that OEMs will turn on that help take advantage of kind of the network capacity that's out there. And it's pretty exciting to see kind of the evolution of the phone not only happening from a modem perspective and a connectivity perspective, but also happening from a graphics perspective
and
power
cameras.
Consumption.
I mean, the 821, it seems to be the chip that enabled some of the functionality we saw with the Pixel camera, like the digital video stabilization functionality, and that is, that's going to just improve people's experience significantly.
Yeah, so a lot of people talk about is innovation happening in the smartphone slowing down, and Cristiano actually pointed this out very clearly in his keynote presentation, that it couldn't be further from the truth that the demands from consumers and the OEMs are continuing to innovate on the smartphone.
Absolutely. Well, on that note, it's almost been 10 minutes. You see, I told you it was going to go really fast. I want to say thank you, Peter. I want to say also thank you, Qualcomm, for taking me here.
Sure.
And I'm looking forward to the next developments, especially the rollout of 5G. What, 2 years now in the U.S., maybe 3 years with Verizon? I mean, we don't know. Yeah. But that's what it looks like, so it's kind of exciting.